Today, when you get off work, you will do something your ancestors were never allowed to do. You will choose. Choose what to eat. Choose where to live. Choose what kind of work to trade for food. Choose whether or not you want to meet other people. It sounds normal. It sounds obvious. But across 300,000 years of human history, for 99.9% of the time we have existed on this earth, that choice did not exist. Your ancestors did not choose their jobs. They did not choose their dinner companions. They did not choose who would share the meat with them. The tribe decided everything, and that was not oppression. That was survival. In 1966, the anthropologist Marshall Solins stood before a conference in Chicago and made a statement that silenced the room. He said that hunter-gatherers, the people we once imagined as miserable and starving, actually worked only about 15 to 20 hours a week to get enough food. He called them the original affluent society. The rest of the time, they slept. They told stories. They played. They sat and watched the fire. The hunter keeps bankers' hours, notably less. That is what Solins wrote. So what happened? We went from 20 hours of work a week to 40, 50, 60 hours. From tribes where no one was allowed to hoard more than anyone else, to a world where 1% of the population holds more wealth than the bottom 50%. From humans who knew the name of every star and every plant within 50 kilometers, to humans who do not know the name of the neighbor living on the other side of the wall. This is not a story about progress or decline. This is a story about a trade-off, and about what we may still be able to reclaim. Imagine waking up 15,000 years ago. No alarm clock, no calendar, no to-do list. You wake because of the sun, because of birdsong, because of the smell of damp earth after the night's rain. You do not know what day of the week it is. No one knows. No one needs to know. Your body, the body of a typical hunter-gatherer Homo sapiens, can run 30 kilometers without collapsing from exhaustion. It can recognize more than 200 plant species in the region. Which ones are edible, which ones treat fever, which ones are poisonous. Your brain stores a detailed topographical map of the entire tribal territory, not on paper, but in living memory. We are not guessing about this. The anthropologist Richard Lee of the University of Toronto spent years living with the Kung San people in the Kalahari Desert, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups in the world. He measured it in detail. The average adult spent only about 17 to 19 hours per week obtaining food. The rest of the day, they rested, took care of children, told stories. But here is the part no one talks about. In Kung culture, when a hunter brought back a large antelope enough meat for the whole tribe for many days, he was not praised. On the contrary, the entire village began to mock him. They said the animal was too skinny. The meat was not worth eating. The hunter should be ashamed. It sounds cruel, but this was the genius mechanism of an egalitarian society. By belittling the kill, the tribe made sure the hunter could never use food to accumulate power. This is what anthropologists call demand sharing. Food did not belong to the person who hunted it. Food belonged to the community, always, and their bodies reflected that. In 2014, a study published in the journal PNAS Times by the University of Cambridge analyzed thousands of human skeletons spanning 7,000 years. The result: the bones of hunter-gatherers 7,000 years ago were up to 20% stronger and denser than the bones of farmers 700 years ago, equivalent to the amount of bone a normal person loses after 3 months. In zero gravity in space, not genes, not nutrition, just movement. Your body was designed to run, climb, carry every day, and you no longer do that. But more important than a healthy body was this: no one slept alone. Your tribe had about 30 to 50 people. You knew every one of them. You knew whether they had slept, whether they had eaten enough, whether they were sad or happy. When you grew old, they cared for you not because there was a law, but because you had cared for them before. You did not need to prove anything. You only needed to be present. The anthropologist Christopher Boehm of the University of Southern California called this a reverse dominance hierarchy. For 300,000 years, humans built a system in which anyone who tried to become too powerful was immediately restrained by the community, through ridicule, through ostracism, through collective disobedience. This was not naive communism. This was a sophisticated social technology, refined over hundreds of thousands of years, to make sure that no one, no matter how talented or strong, could accumulate enough power to harm the group. Then, about 12,000 years ago, in a region we now call Iraq and Syria, something changed. No one decided it. There was no meeting, no vote. Wheat grew, and humans stayed. This was the great historical crime. Who was responsible? Neither kings, nor priests, nor merchants. The culprits were a handful of plant species, including wheat, rice, and potatoes. That is what Yuval Noah Harari wrote in Time Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. The agricultural revolution began in the Fertile Crescent, the region of today's Middle East, and within a few thousand years spread to China, India, and Central America. At the same time, in many different parts of the world, humans also independently discovered agriculture. Wheat and rice, corn and potatoes, they were not domesticated by humans, they domesticated humans. Because once you plant rice, you cannot go anywhere. You have to stay and watch over the crop. You have to build granaries to store the grain. You have to put up fences to protect the fields. For the first time in human history, a concept appeared that had never existed before: property. And once there was property, inequality began. The evidence lies in the bones. When archaeologists analyze skeletons from sites marking the transition from hunting and gathering to agriculture in Europe, the Middle East, East Asia, and the Americas, they find a pattern so consistent it is frightening. The first farmers were about 10 centimeters shorter than the hunter-gatherers who came before them. Their bones show signs of iron deficiency and deficiencies in vitamins A, C, and D. Their teeth were full of cavities because they ate too much starch from grains. Agriculture gave us more food, but not better food, and not an easier life. From agriculture came the granary. From the granary came the guard. From the guard came the king. From the king came taxes. From taxes came armies. From armies came wars of conquest. The entire chain took only about 5,000 years, less than 2% of human history, to turn a species that had once been egalitarian into one hierarchical down to the bone. And that process did not stop. It accelerated. The Industrial Revolution, global markets, the digital economy, each step brought more wealth, more choices, and at the same time, more loneliness. Now look at the human being of 2024. We are more anxious than any generation before us, even though we are safer than any generation before us. We are lonelier, even though we are connected to more people than ever before. We work more than medieval peasants, even though we have machines to work for us. In the United States, a 2023 survey by the World Health Organization found that 1 in 4 adults experiences anxiety at a level that affects quality of life. In highly industrialized countries, rates of depression have risen steadily since the 1980s. That is not a coincidence. Here is the question I want you to sit with for a moment. What if our anxiety is not an illness, but a 300,000-year-old brain trying to process a world it was never designed to live in? Your brain was coded to track 50 people around you, to read every face, to know who was trustworthy and who was not. It was coded to find meaning in a small community, where your contribution was seen and acknowledged immediately. And now it is trying to read 500 people on your newsfeed, compare your life to 200 carefully curated lives on Instagram, and find meaning in a job whose output disappears into a giant, nameless machine. The brain is not broken. The brain is doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It is the environment that is broken. But here is what I think matters most: not working hours, not bone health. What we lost is a clear sense of where we belong in the world. In the tribe, you knew who you were. You knew who you mattered to. You knew where your story began and where it would end, in the arms of people who had known you since the day you were born. The American psychologist Jonathan Haidt calls this a sense of belonging. He and his colleagues analyzed thousands of studies and concluded that belonging to a community is one of the few factors that can predict long-term human happiness more strongly than income, more strongly than physical health, more strongly than achievement. And that is exactly what 12,000 years of progress has slowly dismantled. But do not misunderstand what I am saying. We should not go back to hunting and gathering. We cannot, and we should not. Because civilization has given us things our ancestors never dared to dream of. Modern medicine has wiped out diseases that once killed 1/3 of children before the age of 5. Science has given us an understanding of the universe, ways to treat cancer, and the ability to speak to someone on the other side of the earth in 1,000th of a second. We live longer, healthier lives, and have more personal freedom than any generation in 300,000 years of history. Those things are truly valuable. Not small at all, but we paid a price. We traded the tribe of 50 people who knew one another's names for a city of 10 million where no one looks anyone in the eye in the elevator. We traded 17 hours of work a week for packed calendars and inboxes that are never empty. We traded shared meals around the fire, the thing that created human language, culture, and art, for dinner alone while staring at a phone screen. And we traded the clear feeling that we matter to someone for a number called followers. But this is the most important thing that 300,000 years of history teaches us. The things we lost are not mysterious. We know what they are. We only need to choose them again. A dinner with people you care about without phones is something your brain was designed to have. Work where you know it matters to someone specific, not just as a number on a balance sheet, is what your brain needs in order to find meaning. A small community where you know others and are known by them, that is what kept the human species alive for 300,000 years. Not because of laws, not because of regulations, because that is our nature. For 300,000 years, your ancestors sat around a fire, looked into one another's faces, and told the stories that made them human. We have built a brilliant world, full of light and speed, but your body still remembers that fire. The question is not whether you can find it again. The question is, are you willing to look?